important, it is imperative that we look at the gun issue the same way we look at the drug issue. Well, I don't like the way we look at the drug issue unless we start talking about not making it a criminal offense, but something that we take care of. Again, the 132nd mass murder in America occurred today. 4 more innocent people dead, plus the person wielding the weapon of war. While those who believe in the sanctity of life, who claim to believe in the sanctity of life, says there's nothing we can do. Australia did something about it. New Zealand did something about it. The UK did something about it. And now we are left alone because of our intransigence. Because of our intransigence. Think about this. Coming to you right now, Tori. Let me just finish this thought. Because of our intransigence, we have a healthcare system that kills people. We have a gun system that kills people. And we continue to do it over and over again. Folks, your vote matters, and who you vote for matter. Tori, my dear brother.
And the U.S. did something about it as well. We're living in the wild, wild west, and it's always been the wild, wild west. But I watch a lot of old Western movies, and in towns that had gun problems with, just regular cowboys coming in on the weekends or whatever, when the cows were coming through, the sheriff would confiscate the guns. People couldn't walk around and open carry, and go to the bars and have a good time for the weekend. They had to turn their guns in before they got drunk. So we've taken care of the problem here before, in the context of having a full, robust constitution that allows guns. There's ways to restrict things, and we're just not doing it.
It is amazing because Jon Stewart interviewed, I don't remember the name of the guy out there inside of Oklahoma, and the guy said, you can't restrict guns. It's a constitutional thing. We can't restrict guns. And then Jon Stewart says, what other rights do we have in this country? The right to vote. But yet, in order to vote, you must register. In order to vote, you must have papers. In order to vote, there are all these restrictions that we put on this right, that this inalienable right to the American body politic. But somehow we can't do otherwise. Let's get Colby on the line. Colby, come on in. Colby, you're on.
Hi, Berto.
How are you doing, sir?
Doing well. I want to preface this by saying that I am a gun owner.
Good for you.
But I have a suggestion of an approach to helping to address the gun violence issue, and that is requiring license and registration for guns and for rifles and pistols the same way you do for like a motorcycle or a car.
Oh, you hit, something? It's amazing that you said that now, because on my way driving here, Colby, I also thought about one additional thing, and that is, since somebody inadvertently kills somebody else, also enforce that you have insurance, right? Because if you also have to have insurance on that gun, the insurance industry is going to make sure that they only allow those that logically can have a gun, can have a gun, else, what it costs. So, I mean, I agree with you 100%, Colby. I don't have a gun. I don't believe in guns, but I don't want to restrict you, Colby, because you have a gun for whatever reason you have a gun. I had somebody on my show, a host, Tim Black, on my show, and he said he has a gun because in his neighborhood, the cops come after the fact. And I can understand that. So go ahead, my dear brother.
Yeah, I was also thinking that, if you do require license and registration, that, you still have to address all the guns that are out there and already owned, right? So
yes.
I think you could potentially say, okay, everybody, you have 2 years or 4 years, some arbitrary period of time to get a license. And if you don't, a buyback is possible.
Look, Colby, that is very sensible. Not only is that very sensible, I think most Americans would agree with that, except for the few percentage points of people who I just don't see their worship for the gun. But again, I try to see things through the eyes of others. I don't know what it is what is their worship of that piece of thing, because somehow they believe that they can fight the government. It's to prevent tyranny. I don't know how it prevents tyranny against an F-16. I don't know, but you can tell me maybe.
As far as I know, it hasn't prevented any tyranny in American history.
Exactly.
And,
exactly.
But, also, they a lot of people act like that particular part of the Bill of Rights is like the Word of God or something.
I know.
And it's men. Men wrote that, and we have changed the document over time. And like you said, we put restrictions on the First Amendment.
Yes.
That totally makes sense for our protection, for our safety. And, you can put restrictions on the Second Amendment.
Brother Colby, I appreciate your your logical way of thinking, your pragmatic way of thinking, understanding that there are already a lot of guns out there, and how can we sort of bring them into a fold that makes a lot of sense. Look, thank you so kindly for calling. Anything else you'd like to say before we go, sir?
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so kindly, Colby. All right, let's go to Ray. Come on in, Ray.
Hey, Egberto.
How are you doing, my brother?
Hi, I was just checking in with you. I kind of caught what Kobe was talking about with the guns. I
Yes.
figured that was kind of, it's funny. I have a story that I could tell you real quick. I just moved in this neighborhood that I'm in, and a gentleman was accosted by a lady in the parking lot, and he was very distressed.
Mm-hmm.
And his reaction was to go get a gun.
Right.
And pop off a warning shot in the air. Then he called the police, and they ended up arresting him.
Right.
Now, I'm pressed to believe that he felt he was justified in shooting a warning shot, and I just want to say I felt like if he was a person of a different race or orientation, I can't prove that, it might have had a different result. But basically, he was feeling threatened, so he pulled his gun out to do the warning shot. But I say all that to say he basically had free access to buy that gun because he's in Texas. It's not like we have strict laws and
Right.
standards for a person to own a gun. So how can you hold a person to an accountability standard for having a weapon that you don't have any regulations for, and then you want to penalize them for attempting to protect themselves?
Ray, you think that is bad? There is a woman who went to jail. Her husband was an abuser. I think it was in Georgia. Her husband was an abuser.
I heard that.
And she fired a warning shot to try to shove him off of her. And she spent several years in jail, as I recall. I think she's out now after some sort of I don't recall the entire story, but it is sad because a lot of the gun usage is relative to, yes, your hue, if you will. I mean, that guy who shot the bullet in the air could have shot it into her, and probably if he shot it into her as she was accosting him, more than likely he wouldn't have been in trouble. But again, he shot it in the air, and I mean, this is
Texas. This is a stand your ground state.
Exactly.
I thought you had the right to use your gun as you see fit in protection, but I see that obviously.
Alistair Waters here in the chat, she says warning shots are illegal. So I guess you got to shoot.
Yeah.
If you want to shoot the person, shoot the person. That's better than warning shots. You want to say something, Tori?
Well, if you're going to shoot your gun as a warning shot, shoot it into the ground, not into the air. A lot of people, a lot of things, windshields can get busted, all kind of stuff. It just makes more sense to pop that cap into the dirt.
But I guess I say that to y'all to say that we have an uninformed public that has free access to guns, and yet people are just going out and buying them. it's essentially the same as saying you can go and buy a car, without any license or
I under
documentation to
exactly.
prove
You hit
that you
the.
can operate this vehicle. But guns, yeah, you can go buy a gun and a pack of gum.
You hit the nail on the head, Ray. Thank you so kindly for calling. Anything quick you want to add before I go to Robert?
No, sir. I'll keep listening. I appreciate you. I'm going to keep making sure that I catch your show. I know you're going to be on a different schedule or there's some kind of schedule debate. But, yeah, I'll keep listening, though.
Thank you, my brother. We'll talk, all right?
All right.
Take care now. All right, let's go to Robert. Come on in, Robert.
Hey, you know who this is, huh?
Is this my
yeah.
buddy Robert from the board?
Yeah.
Talk to me, Robert. What's up?
Well, you mentioned Nick Cooper, and I'm really excited to know that you're going to do that. You're going to have him on. I wish I'd thought to make the suggestion. Just wanted to make a quick comment about that and encourage everyone to tune in that when you have him, because that's quite an issue. Those people, he included, have dedicated themselves for years.
Right.
I don't know if it extends into decades, but to feed people. And they're getting all kinds of citations. And with that, I'll just say this, that I've written Castex Tatum, the council person, and the mayor, and as long as 2 weeks ago, and I haven't heard a word from either one.
You're not going to hear a word from them, Robert. The homeless are expendable as far as these politicians are concerned. If you take a listen, we had a homeless person call in to the program on, I think, Tori, I think you were here. Last Monday he called in, and he said he was happy that I was covering this subject. And he also said that, as it turns out, he wants other people other homeless to call into the show. And, homeless is now not the vogue thing to say. It's the unhoused. I just learned that. Folks are starting to tell me, Berta, please use unhoused. So I'm going to try to remember that in my nomenclature. But as it turns out, Robert, it is so important for us to give these people a voice, because what's occurring in Houston is all these real estate moguls are coming out here, buying up all the cheap property, increasing the price of these properties, and moving the people out. Their wages aren't going up commensurate with the increase in rent. So I said, no. We are going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this over and over again. As long as I'm here on a community radio station, that's what I'm going to do. On my internet station, that's what I always do. So that's where we're going to be. Anything else you want to add, sir?
I'm glad you mentioned alcoholism today. The use of alcohol. I wish you would consider doing some shows on that. That might be well, you could figure a way to make it not seem so divergent from maybe your goals for your program, but
it is politics, Robert. Alcohol, how we handle alcohol is also politics. I try to tell people politics is everything, right?
Yeah. There's so much that's not said, and it goes undiscussed. And in my own personal life, I'll go with this, that I learned painfully that alcohol use also leads to heart problems, which I encountered.
Right.
And
Well, look, brother.
So,
anything else you want to add before I go on to the guts of my program today? I just wanted to touch on these subjects, but you guys own the show, so like I tell everybody that calls in, if you change the subject, it's your program, baby. Anything else you want to add?
No, just thank you for allowing me. See you later.
You have a great day, Robert. All right, folks. By the way, I want to acknowledge. Did you want to say something else? Go ahead.
Yeah, as long as we're on the gun thing, there's two sides to this issue, and we're not going to get it solved until we come to a consensus between the two sides. The people that think of themselves as constitutionalists and the people that just don't want carnage in the streets. And there's a difference between what happened in Australia and New Zealand and what could ever happen here. And the difference is that the people in Australia and New Zealand actually trust their government. Nobody here does that. And so how do we bring these two sides together? And we're never going to get a consensus. The other side is afraid of basically gun registries.
Right.
And so how do we get guns off the street without having a gun registry? And the only thing I can come up with is a gun purchasing license. So it separates the ownership of a gun from a gun registry. And so to get a license to purchase a gun, you got to go through all the background checks. Maybe you need to buy insurance. I don't know. But, psychological profiling. But whatever goes into making a person safe to own a gun, you're not a gangster, a gun purchasing license. And then you use that license to go buy your gun. And then the gun doesn't get registered. I mean, the gun is still registered to whatever store it's bought from, Walmart or the pawn shop or whatever. And if people aren't, if that gun winds up at a crime scene killing somebody, then it can go back to not only the people that sold the gun, but to the manufacturers. The manufacturers need to be carrying insurance on all the people that get murdered. They need to be paying out.
Well, you say manufacturer. I believe also in personal responsibility, right? And so I don't want to take the personal responsibility from the person who has that gun in their hands. The other thing, Tori, is I don't know. I mean, when we make gun an issue, it seems like it's a big issue, and some people are going to make votes on it. But how many people are out there where their passion for guns is as much as the loudmouth people that you hear out there? I don't see that. I am in touch with thousands of people in every single district around the country, etc. And I don't see that there's this mass awareness. It's only when somebody puts it into their psyche that something is being taken away from you, a right is being taken away from you, that it's not really true. What they're doing is they motivate that part within our psyche that says, oh, we got to fight for this thing. Something that we probably never used, something that we probably never wanted. But because they're talking about taking away right, it's how the Republican system works as well. We're taking your rights away. We're taking something away. So then you act irrationally. But anyhow, folks, let me tell you, please, the carnage, if you want the carnage to stop, we have to get less guns on the streets. You have more guns, more gun use. You have more drugs on the streets, more drug use. If you have an educated population that learns about making choices, they'll make choices. You can't have an uneducated population at the same time that you're trying to do all these things. Let's get our act together with education. Let's get our act together with healthcare. Let's get our act together with the things that make humanness better here in the country.
Healthcare ties directly into it.
Absolutely.
Because, there's a lot of unhealthy people out there, mentally unhealthy,
Absolutely.
that are using guns.
Absolutely.
And so national health care, that helps people with their psychological conditions. I mean, it's expensive.
And
it's
you
like
said,
public schools.
I want to interrupt you because you said something that I don't want to forget. You said the difference between Australia and New Zealand is that they trust their government. We have a concerted plutocracy in America who tries to tell you not to trust your government. We have to get back into the position where we say government is we the people. For you to say you don't trust government means you don't trust yourselves. Let's go ahead and take the responsibility to hire the government that we can trust, because we are the ones who make government. We can't just sit back and say we don't trust government. We can't do that. We have to make government. And that's one of the goals of what we're doing here, Tori. Stop fearing government and be government. Stop
Well, we
fearing
need democracy, too.
Yes.
I mean, Australia and New Zealand have democracy. People have to vote in Australia. They get the day off. And, there's just, so many things lined up against democracy. We've never yet achieved democracy in this country. We have never been a democracy.
Right.
We're making steps towards it, but it's just like molasses. It's just slow.
Exactly.
So we need democracy, and Trust comes from that.
You know, let me give a good example of the cynicism that occurs right now. And first of all, I want to welcome all our online folks as well: Daniel Lado, Eric Hayes, Julie Henderson, Lee Grant, Alistair Waters, Eric Hayes, E2247, John. We have a whole bunch of people online that are talking about the issues right now. I want to welcome all of you guys. But the cynicism of one of my conservative brothers here on the chat, he says, when he hears me talking about we have to trust government because we must be the government. And he says, trust government, Tuskegee. And I know specifically why he chose Tuskegee, okay? I get it. But you know what? I could use a myriad of other examples that are probably even better than Tuskegee, right? But the thing about it is, it can only happen if we allow it to happen, Brother Ledo. And my goal is that let's make a better government, all right? Let's stop looking at the other guilt in somebody else. Let's stop looking at the other aisle and saying, look, we have in the chat right now, half of the people are conservatives, and they're talking. Look, let's keep talking and let's go ahead and make a difference. Let's make government work for everybody. Anyhow, that's what it's all about, folks. I am not interested in fighting my right-wingers. I'm interested in fighting the politicians that are creating havoc. But everybody else, I'm sorry. That is you're my brothers and sisters. Anyway, look, first order of the day. Governor Abbott is set to pardon a MAGA murderer. Once again, the party that proclaims itself to be the party of law and order, and one that believes in the sanctity of life, proves all the talk is hot air. The Texas Tribune reported the following. Governor directed the Texas Board of Pardons and Parolees to consider recommending a pardon for Daniel Perry on Saturday, one day after a Travis County jury convicted the U.S. Army sergeant in the 2020 murder of Austin protester Garrett Foster. After 17 hours of deliberation and an 8-day trial, jurors Friday found Perry guilty of murder for shooting and killing Foster, who was armed with an AK-47 as part of a group protesting police brutality. Perry, an Uber driver, had encountered the protest a few blocks from the Capitol in downtown Austin. Under pressure from conservatives, Abbott announced Saturday that he asked the parole board to review Perry's conviction and on expedited basis, that is. Wow! You know, this guy just got convicted. And he wants it. Hurry up, guys. We want to get this guy freed. The Texas Constitution, he said, requires a parole board to recommend a pardon before a governor could act. That is true. The governor can't just act. The parole board has to act first. So, who is this convicted murderer that Abbott is intent on freeing? According to Austin police, Perry was driving for Uber when he stopped his car and honked at protesters as they walked through the streets. Seconds later, he drove his car into the crowd, police said. Foster, who was a 28-year-old white man and an Air Force veteran, had been seen openly carrying an AK-47 rifle at the time, which was legal. There are conflicting accounts as to whether Foster raised the rifle to the driver before Perry, who was also legally armed, shot and killed Foster and fled the area, police said. He called the police and reported what happened, claiming he shot in self-defense after Foster aimed his weapon at him. Perry is also a white man. Perry's defense argued that the shooting was justified under the state's Stand Your Ground law, which allows deadly force to be used by those who feel they are in danger. Convicted murderer Daniel Perry previously wrote disturbing social media posts that indicate his violence was actually premeditated. The Texas Tribune reports the following. In June, when President Donald Trump tweeted that protesters, anarchists, agitators, looters, and lowlifes protesting in Oklahoma would face a much different scene than protesters in New York, or Minneapolis, Perry responded from a now deleted account with the username Knives from T Rigu. The tweet read, "Send them to Texas. We will show them why we say don't mess with Texas." That account was identified as being connected to Perry by Tribune of the People, which bills itself as a revolutionary news service. James Sasisnowski, a protester who witnessed the Foster shooting, said core disconnects and a lack of universal compassion for fellow people have divided the country. It's easy to be angry when reading those past tweets in the current context, he said in a text to the Tribune. We have to ask, how did we get here? What led this person to feel this way? We can blame police and racists all day long, but until we change the system, there will be no real difference. Folks, in Texas and other red states, it is clear that they want progressives to remain silent. But worse, if it means murdering a lefty to keep them in line, so be it. Here we go. So this guy goes and he just kills somebody. And it's just like Rittenheimer in Wisconsin. Rittenheimer in Wisconsin. We have video that shows nobody was about to shoot him or do anything to him, but he opened up with his AR-15 and shot dead 2 protesters. If you don't get it, there's a sect in this country that claim to believe in the sanctity of life that really just exposes death. Let's not be fooled, folks. 713-526-5738, extension number 2 to get on air right away. 713-526-5738, extension number 2. Your thoughts on this subject? When I saw or listened to what this governor had to say, what he doesn't realize is what he's doing is giving power to those who know that if they happen to kill somebody, as long as that person is a lefty, as long as that person supports these policies that are to the left of what the minority of Texas wants, it is open season. It is open season on them. Some people may just let this go ahead into the dunder, but this is serious. This is dangerous. This is putting the crosshairs on most of the citizens of Texas. Don't think, because again, like I said, most of Texas is progressive. Yes, we're a red state because of the way voting works in this state. But this is a progressive state. We proved it over and over again. Earlier today, I heard on U-Talk where Steve, not Steve, but the guy who does the news, I forgot his name now. How could I possibly forget his name? He said deep down, when you do everything, this is a progressive state. We've got to come together. We've got to come together. All right. Next subject, since I don't have any new calls on this particular subject, is Texas judge. I mean, Texas is prominent into the news today, Tori. I mean, I don't know. A Texas judge takes away another right from all U.S. women. And notice I said all U.S. women, because this goes far beyond Texas. It goes to every corner of this state. The 50 states that make up this wonderful country, Los Estados Unidos de América. Folks, it was not unexpected. U.S. District Judge Matthew Kacsmaryk, who is an appointee of Donald Trump, suspended the approval of the abortion pill mifepristone. The AP reported the following. The federal judge who on Friday suspended approval of the abortion bill mifepristone is a former Christian legal activist whose small courthouse in Amarillo, Texas, has become a go-to destination for conservatives challenging Biden administration policies. U.S. District Judge Matthew Kaczmarek, an appointee of former Republican President Judge, had a long track record of opposing abortion and LGBTQ rights before the U.S. Senate confirmed him in 2019 to a life tenured position as a federal judge. And the guy's a young guy, so he's going to be there for a very long time. Your vote matters. That is the reason you must vote in progressives going forward to correct the mistakes of hiring these charlatanes as judges. Not even the rating agency for these judges believe he was worthwhile. Although his ruling on Friday was preliminary and not on the merits of the case, Kaczmarek indicated he thought the challenge was substantially likely to succeed. He said the FDA had ignored risks in approving the drug. That's a drug that's out for more than 20-something years. That's a drug that is safer than Tylenol. That's a drug that is safer than Viagra. And he had the nerve to lie. A judge lied on the bench. That should be disqualifying. That should be disqualifying. He lied on the bench. The reporter, Tori, I'm hearing about what Kaczmarek has been doing right? And he goes on the bench and he says this after we have Tylenol, Viagra, and all these other things on the market. And he says that it's likely to succeed because it's a dangerous drug. That's a lie. That's a judge lying on the bench. And we did not hear any of the mainstream media call it out for what it is, a lie.
It's also the Federalist Society and the Cato Institute, or Cato, whatever they are, think tank. These are extreme right-wing think tanks, and these are the ones that are pushing these super MAGA right-wing judges. And, their big agenda is, above and beyond this issue, is to keep black people from voting. I mean, that's why they're being put in place. This is the tip of the iceberg. Their major goal, and this is all delineated in that book, Democracy in Chains by Nancy MacLean, they've got quite a few agendas. The top one is to keep black people from voting, but, they also are using the fundamentalist Christians because they can't win elections without them. And so this is part of that scheme.
And the delineation is perfect, right? You get more of the fundamentalists to vote because we know they predominantly vote to the right, and you get rid of the black base because it predominantly votes to the left. The Latino base, you got an interesting scenario there because it's a 60-40 split in many areas, which there's not much to do there. But that is a very great observation. Now, his ruling used language common in anti-abortion circles. Mifepristone, he said, is used to kill unborn humans. Okay, we're talking about mechanics here, and he's bringing in kill unborn humans. That almost sounds like he's getting ready to put the fetus into personhood mode. And putting the fetus into personhood mode has a lot of legal ramifications. And I wonder, I'm going to pause there to bring up a caveat that people don't realize, right? Let's go ahead and start giving personhood to a fetus, right? Let's give personhood to a fetus. Suddenly now, all those guys that are knocking up women, and women have had to go to the doctors on their own and take care of feeding themselves on their own. As soon as you do that, I hope all the guys around, all the men that are trying to control women's bodies, because remember, abortion is also an economic issue for women and men, but mostly for women. Once you talk about what these folks on the right are doing, remember now that the impregnator is now going to have to support the impregnated before baby is born, which means you are responsible for the incubator, you're responsible for the fetus, you're responsible for all of that. I mean, I don't tell you the truth of it. When my wife was pregnant with my daughter, I took care of the fetus. I took care of my wife. I took care of all of that with gusto. That was my baby coming. But that's not how reality is for every pregnancy. That's not what the reality is for every woman. How dare me or you, Tory, as men, try to tell a woman what she can do, something that she has to do on her own? How dare men? How dare this lying judge? And that's what he is. He lied on the bench. He on the bench. He disclaimed the use of the word fetuses as inaccurately describing unborn humans, noting that they might be persons entitled to equal protection rights. He also describes some of the defense arguments as supporting eugenics. But he forgets that these are the same people who don't want to pass policies for child care. They are the same people that don't want to file policies for good health care. Are the same people that don't want to file policies for basic income, things that keep people, human-born people, alive. These are things that keep people alive now, and they are fighting against it. But they will go hell over hills for a blastocyst. It is amazing. Kaczmarek called Roe versus Wade a ruling in which 7 justices of the Supreme Court found an unwritten fundamental right to abortion hiding in the due process clause of the 14th Amendment and the shadowy penumbras of the Bill of Rights. A celestial phenomenon invisible to the non-lawyer eye. That's a dangerous judge. That's a lying judge. That's a judge that does not belong on the bench. Welcome to Politics Done Right. Persuasive Barrier is in the house. Lee Grant is in the house now. Wow, we have a lot of people coming in. Ken F. is in the house. Thank you guys all for joining the program. Let's go to Ernie. Ernie, come on in, my dear brother.
How you doing, brother?
I am doing fine, sir. Talk to me.
All right. I've always been... let me state this first, that I am Catholic, and according to my religious beliefs, I should be against abortion. But I'm a firm believer that there's at least one exception to any rule, including especially this one. But my concern is they keep talking that these kids have, my question is, are you against sex education in the schools? If the parents aren't going to teach it, if they're going to hold the government or state responsible, shouldn't there be sex education in school, and shouldn't it start in like junior high?
Oh my God, Ernie! You're too smart. Why are you even in the discussion? You're too darn smart, Ernie. Ernie, you're too smart. Let me tell you something, brother. Let me tell you something. All the things that would make life better, teaching about contraception, teaching about safe sex, teaching about all these things that would prevent the necessity of abortion because we wouldn't have conception. Those are the things that these right to lifers supposedly they're really right. They're not right to lifers really, because they don't.
Well, let me interrupt you real quick. There's not just them, but there's a lot of people that I know, be they conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, or whatever, have said that. Well, if you teach them sex education, that's like giving them permission to go have. You're just telling them that they can go have sex.
They have
They're
permission.
Sex whether they even ask
Thank
you or
you,
not.
Ernie. Like I said, you're too darn smart. All right,
Okay.
because that.
Yeah, and I want to tell you something.
Yes.
I don't know. I might be considered a liberal or conservative. Well, I'd be a liberal in Texas, but a conservative in California.
Right.
Is my beliefs that I have. I just as much as I might be against abortion.
Yes.
Because I think it's killing. But then again, as a very Christian person, one of the things beliefs about being a Christian is you have to abide by the laws of that country.
Right.
But also, I'm against the death penalty, and the reason I'm against the death penalty
Same reason.
My Lord and Savior was because of the capital punishment. My Lord and Savior was nailed to a cross and watched to die.
All right.
So that's why I'm against.
Okay, Ernie.
So I mean, but abortion.
I get it.
Go ahead.
I get it, Ernie. Let me tell you something, all right? You are what I call a true Christian, a pragmatist. You may not believe, you may not believe what others believe, but you're not going to hold others accountable. They will, and they'll have to. If you're right, they'll have to answer to their God for whatever it is that they did. But if you're wrong, they won't. I mean, the thing about it is, we have to leave into women's domain what belongs to women's domain, and that you can be a Christian, a true Christian. And yes, you sound conservative to me, my brother, but that's good. I have a lot of conservatives in my room right now, and in my family as well. We all live together,
Well,
man.
the other thing is, you don't have to be a Christian to believe in that killing is wrong.
I agree.
That
I
stealing
believe
is
killing
wrong.
is wrong.
These are just morals. Morals. The Christians or Muslims or any other faith doesn't have a stranglehold on what morals are.
Ernie, you're
and it's just I try, according to our Constitution, we have the right to disagree or agree, whatever, and such. As long as you're not breaking, as I consider, one of the 10 Commandments, or what would be considered normal behavior, you have the right. It's like a racist. A racist has the right to exist in this country. It's racist actions that are against the law.
Yeah, exactly. And I always tell people, we can't change somebody's heart, but we can change the law. We can't change your heart, but we can change the law.
You can't pass laws to
mitigate the heart.
Yeah, it's just you have to accept people for what they are and let them do it. But then again, I know people that are racist that they actually committed what would be considered. They actually gave a promotion to the person that needed that was the best person for the job and deserved the job, and it was to a black woman. And all his gentleman friends said, "Well, what does that mean for us?" He said, "I mean, she's your boss, and you have to do what she says, or you're going to have to answer to me."
There you go.
And I mean, he didn't hate blacks, so he just didn't care to be around them or anything like that.
Look,
but when the time comes,
the race issue is a very complicated thing. That's not what we're talking today, Ernie. But you're so right. I like the way you think. I'm gonna call you a conservative, brother, but I love the way that you think. All right.
I'm a veteran, and I consider myself an American.
Here you go. And you know that first and foremost, thank you for your service. And yes, we're all Americans, and you are a good serving American. Thank you, Ernie, for calling. Keep listening, sharing as well. Okay, brother?
Gotcha. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
You too now. Let's go to, come on in, B.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm doing fine. Talk to me, my friend.
So I just wanted to, I heard the last you said that he was Catholic. I myself was raised Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people need to learn about the death of Savita Halappanavar.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I said that correctly, but her death caused Ireland, which is one of the most hardcore Catholic countries in the world, to re-examine their laws on abortion and change their constitution. She was a young dentist who had a miscarriage, and she was not legally allowed an abortion by the doctors because they still detected a heartbeat, and it caused her to develop sepsis and die.
Yeah.
I want to say she was around 34 years old, which
Wow.
is a travesty. And I also agree with you that as a man, somebody will never have to make the choice of carrying a life to term. My opinion is irrelevant, but if you examine a lot of different aspects, I think opposing abortion is wrong on a ethical level, on a religious level, on just about every level.
On an economic level.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I was raised Roman Catholic, and a lot of people, don't realize that the Bible does not mention abortion at any point in time. So if you really want to understand what their views would have been, you kind of have to look at Judaism, which specifically believe that you're not a person until your first breath.
There you go.
And in the Talmud, there's a line which says that within a certain period of time, a fetus is essentially no different from water. And then if you look at, I believe it's Deuteronomy, they actually have a story which is about two men. They say if two men are fighting, they strike a pregnant woman, and it causes the death of a fetus. At that point, they're supposed to pay a fine to the man. But if they kill the woman or they injure her, then it's a life for life, a limb for a limb, eye for an eye. So that right there, that's in the Bible, and that specifically points to the fact that it considers the life of the woman to be the most important aspect.
Absolutely.
So,
that is a very good point that you've just brought up. Look, B, thank you for your sensible comments, your civility, your knowledge, as well as your intellect, brother. Thank you so kindly for calling in.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too now. Folks, let me tell you, this is always going to be a touchy subject, right? It's always going to be a touchy subject. But I, in this case, will always defer to women. And I think it is time for, it's not, it's women have to assert themselves. There are more women than men in this country. It is your world. I don't know what else to say. Anyhow, folks, we are coming down close to the end of the show. Actually, to the end of the show. I didn't get to all of my topics today. I missed one topic. But please go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and it's all written up there that you can follow what we got through. Thank you so kindly for your ears. Thank you so kindly for going to kpft.org. Support the program, hit the donate. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you guys know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out!